we fundamentally see this as like, whoa. Like, this is intelligent. This reflux, this colic is intelligent. There's order in this chaos where they're trying to tell us something. Let's harmonize the system so that it can balance back out.
Right.
It's a huge difference. Hello, friends. Dr. Devin. We are here with our first guest episode of The Big Idea, and I'm honored and grateful to get to do this one in person because this guy sitting beside me is my baby brother, and he historically these last few years, decade plus, has lived really far away. But in the last few months, we have put in some work to move, his family home, and he's now serving alongside me at the Lighthouse. And I am so excited for this conversation and to get to just do life and be in chiropractic service alongside this guy. You are going to want to get a piece of paper and pencil out for this because since he was a little one, and Mom called it early, he just had this thing about him, wise so far beyond his years. Not to give him too many compliments here, but he is a stream of love and courage, and there's going to be some wisdom dropped on this episode. So Dr. Derek Mobley, welcome to The Big Idea.
Thank you for having me. And so, like she said, she gives me all these credits, and I've got all this wisdom. But she was the person that I can remember still have this very vivid memory. I was at chiropractic school. I wasn't in chiropractic school yet, but she was speaking there, and I remember taking a picture of her and being like, "This is like the coolest thing I've ever seen." So we have this saying in chiropractic that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and like I literally feel that way when I'm standing next to her, and it is weird to like have someone that is so influential in not just in chiropractic, but just in health in our community here in Wichita. And for her to be my sister, but also my boss. And it's a fun dynamic, but I'm here for it.
I think that our parents did well in the values that they instilled at us. You guys have heard from Dr. Haley, and you will hear from her again in episodes. The three of us are all chiropractors. But we were never adjusted as kids. No. Actually, was the first of the siblings to go through chiropractic school, and I didn't get adjusted until I was, weeks into school. So it's all kind of crazy how we landed here. And you're going to get to hear some of the backstories. And chiropractic will always come up because it has changed our lives, the trajectory of our lives. And it is something that we do, but way beyond that, it has become like the way of life for us. And I'm sure we'll probably hit on pieces of that in this episode. But the big idea came around a few years ago when our mom had passed away in 2016. And there was just this haunting on my heart of, man, like, what if I had been able to get some truths to her sooner? And would it have changed things? Would she be here with us? And the reality is that I think we serve with a passion because of the pain that our family has been through, and pain really does have purpose. And I think God's design doesn't always look the way that we want it to. And it seems to work itself out. So, in this conversation particularly, we're going to talk about, what's the big idea for Dr. Derek? What are some of the anchors that he really anchors his premise on? But before we dive into that, aside from being my brother, who are you?
So I'm born and raised in Andale, Kansas. I married my high school sweetheart, Jessica, who's also a chiropractor. We've got 4 kids together. My oldest is in gymnastics, so I'm a gymnastics dad. I have a shirt that says gymnastics dad that I wear around all the time. But I'm just in love with being a parent, being a Christian, spreading our message. I traveled to Charleston, South Carolina. I was there for 5 years. My wife and I had a practice there. That was incredible. We've talked about the book, The Alchemist, before. And in The Alchemist, the guy moves away and then he comes back and he's like, man, why did I have to go do that? And he's like, oh, you got to go see the pyramids. They were beautiful. And that's my pyramids. But Charleston was I had to go there. I had to experience that. Our kids loved growing up there, but now we're home where all of their cousins are and all of our childhood friends are. And so I love that we're back now.
There's no place like home.
There's no place like home.
Yeah, that Wizard of Oz movie that we literally had to watch all the time in school.
And can I tell you one thing that you only hear about when you move somewhere else and you tell people you're from Kansas? It's like, oh, Dorothy, right?
Dorothy.
Yep.
And
Dorothy.
There really is.
It's true.
No
There's
place
no place like home.
Gosh, dang it. They got us. we get to see and serve a lot of people in practice, and from babies who are literally like minutes old. Like, I've got to be at a few of your births, and we've had all of our, I've got 5 kids. He's got 4. These kids have been checked now since they were born, all the way up to, I think my oldest patient as of now is 101, and everywhere in between. Every, lifestyle and job description. I mean, we take care of the gamuts. So when I say, what's the one thing you wish they all knew, right? Because that's what's tough about practice, is because there's never enough time to have all the conversations, and there's all the things we wish we'd known sooner. So if I said, all right, Dr. D, you got to give them one. Like, what's that anchor, that major premise that becomes kind of the foundation that you set your life, your parenting, your daily rhythms? Like, what's that one thing that's really lit up your life?
Yeah. I was thinking about this, and there's actually, I can't take total credit for this. There's a pastor that I know of online, and he talks about how there's order and design in our world. And that really kind of leaks into our lives as chiropractors, is that there's order and design in the world, there's order and design in the human body, and I believe that we are designed to be healthy. And that plays a role in my life in so many different ways, right? From a chiropractic perspective, it's like we believe that our body's designed to be healthy. So like, the most common example is like when your kiddo has a fever, it's like they're not sick, they're expressing health because they're designed to do that. They're designed to have a fever when something bad comes in, right? But it's not just that. It's like the food that we eat. It's like what was ordered and designed for us to eat. It's like all the stuff that's processed. It's like, well, like we understand, most of us know that we shouldn't eat processed food, but why shouldn't you eat processed food? It's like, well, because there's order and design for the food that's here that we should eat, right? And so a lot of the decisions that we make come from this perspective of, okay, if there's order and design, what was the design? And how can I follow that path of design?
So I told you guys, here we go, here we go. And a big idea is just an idea unless you can put it in motion.
Right.
So this is a beautiful concept, right? Like, and you're going to hear a lot of these where it's like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Right.
There's order and design, Dr. Derek. That's great. So somebody comes in and they have an ache or a pain, or they have a child they're taking care of, but like, how do I use, what do I do with that big idea?
Totally. And so for us, of course, again, this is where I'm going to say some of this. It's like, I always tell my patients, like, I'm biased because I'm a chiropractor. It's like, yeah, I'm biased, but it's also like when you know something's true, you know it's true, right?
Yeah.
And so you need to tell that. You need to share that. So one of the things we know, right, if we're talking about from a health perspective, is that your nervous system controls everything. So I always start there. And that's not just a chiropractic thing, but it's, okay, if my nervous system, my brain and my spinal cord and the nerves in my body, if you've never seen a picture of your nerves splayed out like a cadaver.
We'll make sure this gets added to the video right here.
Because miles long. If you connected all the nerves together, they go everywhere, right? So it's just this constant communication within your nervous system. That's the base floor. If I have a healthy nervous system, okay, everything else is going to function better. So I always start there, not just in getting adjusted, because getting adjusted does help your nervous system, but how can I help my nervous system with a healthy rhythm in my sleep and my patterns, right? So when I'm waking up and how my day looks, and like just laying those things out so that I have a healthy functioning nervous system and that I'm eating well. It's like all of those things kind of, they bleed together, but it's always the base floor is, if my nervous system is functioning well, other things are going to function better as well. And so this is like the cool part of the order and design of our nervous system, is that it can adapt. It's like I always tell people, it's kind of like, how cats are just like, they always land on their feet, right? It's just like no matter what you do, the cat's always going to land on its feet. And that's, our nervous system is designed that way. The problem is that most people don't think it's designed that way. They think that we just decay and we just get worse, and we're like cars and we break down and we replace the engine, but that's not how we're made. We're made to be like cats that land on our feet. So that's always the perspective that I have when I'm sick, or when something is wrong, or if I have an ache or a pain, or even if I'm just trying to make a decision about, again, whatever it is, a new diet, or I want to add in something new to my healthy routine, does it serve the purpose of helping my body to be more adaptive?
You mean that pain and sickness are not bad things. There's an order to them.
Right. And that's one of the hardest concepts, right? Yeah. Because as someone who struggles with a health concern or has aches and pains all the time, it just seems like it's this bad thing that's happening to you right? And it's like, how am I ever going to get out of this circle of having neck pain or headaches? So why is that happening to me? And of course, one of the common examples we use is it's like the check engine light, right? It's something telling you, hey, something is wrong. I had an awesome conversation with a grandma of a child earlier today, right? We're talking about colic. It's like, what is colic? It's like the baby's trying to tell you something. They don't want to just sit there and scream.
No.
They don't want to just sit there and be gassy and fussy. They're trying to tell you, hey, something's wrong, but I'm a baby. So here's how I'm going to communicate it.
And then we'll, enter in a lot of situations because we see a ton of babies in the practice with colic and reflux, and they're put on medications.
Right.
And you can apply this across ages and gamuts of symptoms and diagnosis.
Yeah.
And we suppress those signals.
Yeah.
And so I think we can get labeled tin foil hat or conspiracy or that we're anti-medicine. It's not that. And that's, you see this discord in the culture right now where there's a lot of arguing. It's not that we're arguing about the medication. We're arguing at the premise. There's a fundamental belief that, my perception is from a medical doctor, they see the symptom, it's bad, we need to suppress it because it's, something's out of order. And if I suppress it, that puts it back in order.
Yeah.
We fundamentally see this as like, whoa. Like this is intelligent. This reflux, this colic is intelligent. There's order in this chaos where they're trying to tell us something. Let's harmonize the system so that it can balance back out.
Right.
It's a huge difference.
It's a total difference. And, when we even see it playing out with like smaller things like taking ibuprofen or Tylenol, we thought for years that you could just pop that stuff, right? And now we realize, how much is this affecting our liver and our kidneys, right? It's like even medications, like here's my base point with medication is that every medical doctor would admit this. When you take something, it's designed to have a response in your body. We know that, right? Generally, we want that response to be that it makes those bad symptoms go away. But it doesn't mean that our body doesn't have to filter that and get rid of that medication. We know that. When you take a medication, there's always the risk of a side effect, right? Well, if our body is designed, it has its own pharmacy inside of here, right? My goal with that order and design is, okay, why is this happening? How can I support my body, right, with healthy things? Like there are healthy remedies and things that you can do to maybe give you some symptom relief while at the same time allowing that order and design within your body to process what's going on and get you past it naturally. And the main reason I want someone to get past something naturally, A, because I know it's good for them, but also it's because if they pop a pill once and it suppresses, okay, what are we going to do in a month or in 2 months or in 6 months, right? It's like, and people know this. If you're sitting at home with a health concern, you've experienced that. I had disc issues when I was in my early 20s in my low back, and I always call it riding the wave. Like the wave ramps up and it gets bad, it gets better. A lot of times it goes away, but then it just keeps going like this. And as we get older, we just have more and more waves. And now we just well, I guess that's just part of my life, when it doesn't have to be, because you can just totally flip that trend on its head by allowing your body to fully heal
and
from
give
the
it
inside
more
out.
of what it needs. And this segued into a conversation in the office yesterday. So let's take something big culturally, right? Paradigm-wise, when you look at COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Which, we're years into now, but here we come into the fall and, cold flu season, the conversations, they follow seasons, right? Like we're seeing the same types of things. And I think we feel it. I mean, we have since 2020. We feel it very differently. You can go back on this channel. I made a video on March 13th, 2020 that said like, whoa, this is not what we think it is. Like, but fundamentally it's because of this premise. Because, I'm not afraid of my symptoms.
Right.
Like, and there's not a fear reaction. There's a trust response.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Right.
Like,
totally.
and that's like, I think our major premise and goal in the office is to help more people come back to that knowing, which you said. And there is a difference between believing it. At first, we have to kind of unlearn the things that we maybe grew up with or that don't serve our trajectory. And then we have to find new things, do some learning. Then we start to believe it. But when I mean, could you move you off of this?
It's one of those things. It's once you know it, you can't go back.
You really can't.
And we're blessed in chiropractic because for a long time we've sort of we haven't had enough research behind chiropractic. It's been one of the things we've lacked for a long time, and we can get into that. There's more tinfoil hats on why that is, but regardless, we're getting so much more information. Like, oh, you know what? The human body is like really, really intelligent. It actually is really, really smart. It actually does know how to heal from X, Y, and Z as long as we help it do that. So, I think we're only more empowered as we go along.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it is one of those things. It's such a paradigm shift in your mind that it really is difficult to ever think any other way other than that, oh my gosh, the body is so smart.
This order and design, I mean, it's life without fear.
Yeah.
When things are happening, even the big things like cancer or looking at what we went through, of being able to accept now that even this light bulb, this mission, like, would it even exist had we not gone through that?
Right.
And
Totally.
you kind of hit it a little bit earlier too, where you said it's that life's happening to you versus like for you.
Right.
And we have the perspective now, not to say we haven't dealt with a lot of tough stuff, but when you do have somebody, so in one of those situations or seasons where it's dark, how does this shine light into even the darkest of space for you?
It just makes you pause before you do anything. And this is with your health, with your family, if you're going through something emotionally. When you go through these things and you realize that there's this order and design, it just makes you pause before you react. And again, whether that's emotionally in a relationship or about your health, it's really easy to have those snap judgments. And again, that's kind of how we grew up as kids. Like, something's wrong, you just go and you fix it. But you don't need to be in fix-it mode all the time when you can pause and reflect and see why is this happening. And that's something again, as one of my mentors, that I've had to learn over the years of being a better leader, of being a better husband, of being a better parent, is it does require you to like stop, be objective, sometimes be non-emotional when you really want to be emotional, right? To make the best decision for your kids or for yourself. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions, but those hard decisions are so much easier to make when you have a foundation for why you're making the decision and you can do it from a rational, non-emotional place.
Because otherwise those emotions can turn one problem into two pretty fast.
Right. And sometimes you need it, right? Like sometimes you do need the emotion, but it's about understanding.
And it's a process.
Yeah.
Because I'm time warping right now to our very first big idea in 2018 in the freezing cold, rain tent.
Yep.
And you spoke at that one. Do you remember what your key tagline was? Is that hit us with it right now. Bring it back to life today.
It was, this is my life that I have created and I have no other choice but to succeed. But can I tell you how that's maybe changed a little bit?
Yes.
So
say it one more time.
This is my life that I have created, and I have no other choice but to succeed.
Okay. How has it changed?
So much of that is still true. I still believe in that. But the small ways that I would change it, especially when you talk about being able to pause, being able to reflect, being able to make some decisions that don't always feel like your quick snap judgment, what I probably would change that to is my life is God's life that He has created. And I have no other choice than do what He put me on earth to do.
Which takes it from inside out empowerment to above down, inside out. And one of the things we'll end with on these segments, and this just ties without planning, right? Like perfectly, like there's order and design to it or something. But it ties to this premise in chiropractic that the power flows from above down, inside out. And so I can take people that I've met over the years that are really empowered, and I used to be like, they're confident, they're courageous, they got it going on inside out, they're really strong, and they're bound and determined to succeed. Yeah. But they're missing a spiritual connection. Yeah. And so when the waves hit, when the dark times come, they suffer, they trip up, no matter how strong they are. Yeah. But you just expanded that framework and you anchored it instead of here on earth up to heaven. How does that change, and how would you tie that really into a prayer for humanity in these times that we're living in? Because I think, know that this fall is going to get a little chaotic. Like we have navigated a lot over the last 4 years, and there is beauty in the chaos because I think we're having conversations. There's things happening culturally that I believe are for the better and brighter. I really do believe the best is yet to be. Yeah. but it's going to get harder before it gets better in some capacities. So
Totally.
this above, down, inside out, if
Yeah.
we could help people anchor to this,
Right.
how's that impact?
How would we do that?
Yeah.
So you just kind of said it. I personally, and I just think when you look at most of history, things generally get more chaotic before they get less chaotic. And that's okay. We need to know that, right? If we can know that, if we can understand that this fall is going to be crazy and chaotic, it allows us to be those people that can pause, that can reflect, that can say, oh, November didn't go how I thought it was going to go, or maybe how I wanted it to go. That's okay. Like my family is still going to be okay. And that's what I would anchor in, is that you don't have to believe in God. I believe in God because of this order and design that we've talked about. But with that, I know that God is going to put me where I need to be. He's going to put my family where they need to be. And part of that is being open to situations, being open to scenarios, being open to people that you meet, people that God puts into your life that are going to push you and your family forward to allow you to do what God put you here to do. Mm-hmm. You just have to be open to that. And so even when times seem crazy and you have health challenges and the world and the country are going bananas, you can be the calm, cool, rational mind. And I think it's important, especially as a parent or a future parent, to know that you're making generational changes when you're the cool, calm, and collected person.
They're watching.
That you teach your son and your daughter to be.
They are watching.
Yeah.
That the cat.
Yeah.
Landing on its feet.
Yeah.
And we'll include a few tips from him in the show notes, particularly about that. I would venture to guess that when I say, hey, how would you steady that nervous system and be the cat?
Yeah.
Getting adjusted would be on there.
It's always going to be, I don't want to say my number one, but it is, again, I'm a biased person.
And
but
prayer.
And
are
prayer.
there any other things you'd say, like how do they practically stay that cat on there?
Sure. So one of the things I always recommend with like just learning, you have to learn your rhythm. Like you have a husband that naps every day.
Every day, guys. You cannot take naps from Dr. Joe.
Okay.
He probably needs to talk about that when I interview him.
He should. He definitely should. But that's his rhythm, right? Mm-hmm. And some people don't do well with a nap. Some people wake up like, hello? Right? But it's learning that rhythm. When do you wake up? How do you do well? Don't try to push yourself to be the person that wakes up at 4 a.m. if you don't do well waking up at 4 a.m. So just learn your rhythm. Understand what works well for you. I also am really partial to things that improve your heart rate variability, which we've talked about. But that's things like cold exposure. Like I really love like doing 30 seconds of a cold shower in the morning. It's not always fun. But once the other thing, I'll end on this. I promise I'll end on this. Is when you learn healthy things, once you start doing them, you don't want to go back. Right. So it sounds like a barrier to eat really healthy, but once you do it, you don't want junk food. Right. And once you start taking cold showers, even though it seems like, oh, why would I want to hop into a cold shower in the morning? You don't want to do it any other way anymore. So I highly recommend kind of tiptoeing into some of those things, whether it's getting adjusted, prayer and meditation, cold exposure. Once you start doing them, you're not going to want to do it any other way.
There it is, folks. Order and design.
You got it.
The Big Idea with Dr. Derek Mobley. I'm grateful. You will be getting a lot more of us in the months to come as we, galvanize and supercharge our mission at the Lighthouse and the Big Idea. But thank you.
Thanks for having me.
being here. And ... We'll see you guys next time.